Oh, hey guys. In today's video, you're going to learn how to build out an authenticated API. To do this, we're going to be using FastAPI integrated with OAuth as well as JSON Web Tokens. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome guys, here we are building out an authenticated REST API with FastAPI integrating JSON Web Tokens as well as OAuth. Now, I've already built out a basic API structure with endpoints. We actually covered this in the last video, and so this is an extension of that. If you want to watch that video, which I highly encourage you to, I'm going to try and link that here as well as in the description. If you want this code as a starting template, all right, that'll be in the description below as well to where you can follow along. Really, all we've done with this code here is I've built out a few models and some endpoints, and we set up a database. So we can fetch all of our endpoints, we can get things, we can receive, update, delete, all of that. And that is what we did in the previous video. Now here is really all about taking it to the next level. How do we add authentication to an API, and how do we make sure it's secure using these web tokens? That's what we're diving into here. So I'm going to expand on our existing code to touch on all the key points and try and make it short and sweet. Now, so far, we have everything installed here. If you don't have any of these, or if you're going to use the code I have, that's fine. Make sure that you pip install everything here. Okay, so more specifically, we need really four things you're going to need in order to run this project. Okay, pip3 install. You are going to need FastAPI. You are going to need, if I can spell correctly, SQLAlchemy. Okay, we are going to do Pydantic. And one that's not on here is Uvicorn, okay? Uvicorn is used to run a FastAPI. This is much lighter than, let's say, Flask. Usually like Flask, you can just run right here in your terminal. We need Uvicorn to actually handle this and run this for us, okay? So Uvicorn. Now, I already have these installed, so I'm not going to install that. The one new installation that we do need is we're going to need to install Pass library, or our password library. You can run this, okay, and I already have it, but we do need to install. I'm going to say from passlibrary.context, we are going to import crypt context. If I actually go back here for you guys, if I go here, crypt context, right, this is going to be used to help us hash and verify our passwords that we're generating and creating for our API. All right. Now, let me close my terminal. With FastAPI, we're going to need to tap into a different module. So I'm going to say fastapi.security, right? And we want to import, I'm going to use OAuth here. So it gives us all of these recommendations. We need our bearer, and then we also need our request form. Okay, so I'm going to import that. And then finally, our JSON Web Tokens, JWT, I can import that just like so. Right, so everything we need is pretty much all set up, right? With typing, I have a list, just a good practice. I'm going to give here optional. And I suppose we need a way to verify the validity of how long the access token is valid for. So I'm going to say here from date time, let's import date time, and let's do time delta, I believe is what we're going to do here. Okay, all these installations are done, and you can see that here in my code, I've already marked some of the steps that we're going to build out and expand here today. Real quick, if you guys are getting value in today's video, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you get notified when I drop a new video. Thank you guys for being here. I'm having a blast creating for you, and I know you're getting the value. I don't have a sponsor for this video, so I'm going to sponsor myself. The first link in the description, that is my Python masterclass that I've built on 8 years of teaching experience, and I'm giving you my exact system that I take all my students through from A to Z so you can finally break out of tutorial hell and master Python. You get interactive lessons, interactive coding sessions, all my Python ebooks, as well as live Q&A sessions so you can come ask your questions, and break through any barriers you have. And if you're really lucky, you're gonna get one-on-one coaching with who else? This guy. That's right. There's one-on-one coaching down there if that's what you're looking for too. Everything's in the Python Masterclass. First link in the description. Back to the video. Now, first up is going to be our security configuration. These are really just going to be like constant variables that OAuth is going to need in order to create this authenticated endpoint. So I'm going to create a constant variable, a few of them here. We need to make a secret key. Okay, now in production, you would keep these variables private, right? For the sake of today, I'm just going to say code with Josh. Okay, so I have a secret key here. We need a hashing algorithm. So algorithm. You could even hard code this in, but having this as a variable is almost better. I'm going to say HS256. Whoops. Okay, there we go. And then lastly, we need a time, right? So token expires. Usually the default is 30 minutes. So I'm going to put it as 30 right here. All right. So we're going through here the configuration. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to hash the password using bcrypt. All right. Now, I'm not going to dive into bcrypt here too much. It's a library used for password hashing. We can bridge this with the import that we have here, crypt context. If you guys want more videos about bcrypt, I'll link a video here. Okay. And I'll put it in the description. I covered a little bit of bcrypt as well. I'm going to create a variable called password context, and this is just going to be equal to our class crypt context. And inside here, I can give it a schematic to follow. So really, I'm going to say bcrypt, and then just as a safety net, I'm going to say deprecated is equal to auto. Now we need an OAuth. I'm going to say OAuth2 because that's what we've imported. Schematic. Okay, and I'm going to say OAuth password bearer. And inside here, we're going to say token URL is just equal to our token. All right, so we're pretty much just setting everything up right here that we're going to use throughout this program. Right, now, let's say everything in our configuration is kind of ready to go. Okay, I have something that's going to be responsible for the password hashing. We're going to use bcrypt for that. And then a bearer is basically the token that we're going to get back. And it's going to come from OAuth, which eventually is going to generate us a token. Going down here, I created previously a database model. This just represents a single user in our SQLite database. That's all that this is. And this is where I integrated SQLAlchemy. Once again, that's in the last video, so in the description, okay? And I'm going to expand on this. I'm going to expand on this in two levels. One, we now have a hashed password. And I'm going to create like a Boolean variable to check if the user is active, right? Because if they're active, they should be able to stay logged in. If they're not active, then they're not active. And each of these is going to be a new column in our database. Now, our hash password is ultimately just a string, and it cannot be nil. It cannot be empty. Okay, so nillable equals false is very common here as we're setting up our database model to make sure that that field is not empty, right? And then our last one, this is just a Boolean value. So I can just say Boolean. And by default, it's probably a good idea to set the user as true. They are active. These are the only two expansions that we need here. And you can see I'm going to get an error because I didn't use Boolean anywhere yet. So up here in our SQLAlchemy imports, I'm just going to import the class Boolean, right? I've touched a lot on SQLAlchemy in other videos. I love it. Okay, it's an object relational mapper, an ORM, which really just allows us to write Python code and interact with databases without actually having to use a lot of SQL, right? So this is our SQLAlchemy model used for our database. Then we have our API models. These API models really allow us to get and receive information from our endpoints. And these are not SQLAlchemy. This is Pydantic, a Pydantic model. When we create a user, the user has a name, an email, and a role. They're now going to have a password. Okay, so I'm going to create the property for password here, right? And then a user response is linked to when a user is created. Because when we interact with these endpoints, I don't want to change the original user who was created because this could overwrite some information. And additionally, I don't want to reveal any private details, which is our password. This kind of overlaps the existing model and it's going to hide any protected details. In this case, it is going to be our password. We don't want to reveal those. But we will set the value here to isActive, which is a Boolean value. Okay, so once a user is logged in and they try and make changes to any of the endpoints, it's going to be dealt with here in this user response class. Great. Now I put down here some new Pydantic models, right? So I'll just leave that there actually. And because we're now dealing with authentication, we are going to build out a few new models here. So I'm going to create a class and I'm going to call this user login. This is our base model from Pydantic, just like before. And this is going to have an email, which is going to be a string. Okay. And then additionally, we are going to have our password, which is also a string. Okay, so when the user logs in, they need to use their email and their password when they log in to be authenticated. This is what this data class, this base model, is going to handle for us. Then we can create a model for token. Okay, so when this token is generated, it's going to be unique. It's going to allow you to access the whole API system. And I'm going to create one here, access token. This is just going to output as a string. And then the token type is also going to be a string. And then our final one here is just going to be the token data that we get back. Where is my base model? And really, this could be an optional field, I suppose. The token data is going to be linked to the email of the user who logs in once they're authenticated. So I'm going to say here email, but I'm going to mark this as optional. This is probably a better This is probably a better way to handle it. This is a string value. If it's left empty, it's just going to default to none. That's what this is doing. So optional is a type hinting that makes this field optional. If it does accept data, it needs to be a string. If this is left empty, it's going to default to the value of none. Right, so, all right, I've expanded on these Pydantic models now. So all in all, we now have what? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These will be used to interact with our API. Now, I already have these endpoints, right? And if you're following along with this code, all right, or go watch the first video, guys, right? I really break this down and explain how you set up endpoints, how you get this running, okay? Now, because I haven't actually ran anything yet, let's just open our terminal. And if you haven't run FastAPI yet, we're just going to run this and so I can walk you guys through it. We're going to type here uvicorn, type the name of your Python file. So mine is called my API. I'm going to say my API :app -- reload. Run it. This is what starts the server, and you can see here it's running here. So I'm going to go to this URL. And after our page is loaded, this is really what the landing page looks like, the home route, okay? But we don't really care about this. What's great is we can go here and say docs. This takes us to our Swagger UI interface, code with Josh, right? And here are all the routes I already have established. These are not locked yet. That's what we're building out here in authentication system. So for example, let me just run down here. I'm going to create a user, try it out, right? I'm going to say, Josh, give me an email. Let's just use my email. This is my public email, so that's okay. Role, let's say Python. Password, I'm going to say test123. Okay, all I'm going to do is click execute. And you can see that, okay, well, I'm given an internal server error, right? But that is my fault only because I have now set password up here in my Pydantic model. Okay, so I could have ran this before, right? But I wanted you guys to see that if you didn't run that yet, all of these endpoints are going to work and we can test them out. But since I have that turned on,
I guess for the sake of this, let's turn this off just so I can run it again. Because if we're already here, you should be able to see this run. I'm going to click execute. Might have to, did I get a background error? Internal server error again. Parameters, Josh, Python, none, 1. I have a SQL error, so easy way to handle this. I'm going to delete my database. Sometimes when we run SQL, we get these cross errors, and the easiest way to handle it is to reset your database. Let's run this again. Unicorn, my app, reload. And let's just create a user, try it out. Their password has been removed, right? So Josh, email, test@gmail.com. Role can stay role, execute. And you can see here, right, there we go. Okay, so it is working. I've been added to it. Okay, I just created a new user. If I go down here and I can get a user, so if I try it out, I should be added. I'm going to execute this. Boom, there I am. Okay. All of these endpoints currently work, right? So if I want to update, let's say the name again is Josh. Let's actually change it to say code with Josh. Email, I'll leave a string, and let's just change this completely to Python. Let's execute. It has been changed. Okay, so this works, but these aren't locked. These should be restricted, and that's what we're building out here. So coming down here, I'm going to leave that running. There's no reason to actually close it. I am going to go and I'm going to turn back on what I turned off. So 1, 2, and the database model. Okay, turn these back on, save, and going down. I'm going to build out some helper functions that are meant to sort of help with security, because we want to do a few things here, right? I want to verify my password. We want to get the password hash, create access tokens. There's a lot of stuff going on here for security. So I'm going to create a function. Let's call this verify password. Okay, and inside here, this is going to take my plain password, which is just a string, and this is going to also take our hashed password, which is a string. And really, this is going to output a Boolean because it's going to check, do they match, true or false? That's all that's happening. So I'm going to say return password context. Whoops. We created an object earlier with our password context, and we can link, they have a function called verify. I'm going to give it my plain password, and we are going to give it our hashed password. If this returns true, it's a success. They match. Your hashed password matches the input password. We should be able to unlock the next level of this. Going forward, we have that. We want to get the password hash. Okay, so this is going to take a password. This is a string, and this is also going to output us the password, okay? The actual hash itself. Now remember, a hash is literally just a bunch of gibberish, okay? It takes our password, it mixes it up, and it's going to give it back to us. All we have to do here, because this is meant to generate it, is I'm going to say return. Let's take our password context object. I'm going to say hash. What do I want to hash? My password. That's all we actually have to do for this. Okay, we verified a password, and then we actually make the hash. Pretty cool. Okay, next up. So after we hash the password, a few other things I guess we want to do here is we want to create an access token, and we want to verify the access token. So let's call here, let's say create access token. And for now, I'm going to put pass, and I'm going to say def verify token. And we'll put pass in here. Okay, so these will be the next 2 layers. This create token is going to take a dictionary of the subject back. When we try and create something, it generates a dictionary that's going to hold this access token. So I'm going to call that like data, and I know it's supposed to return to us a dictionary. And I'm going to say here expires delta. So how much time do we have on that? Well, we are going to give us 30 minutes, which we created constant variables for. And that's just going to be based on our time that we have left. If nothing is there, we're going to say none. My VS Code just took a moment. Okay, great. So we're here creating this token. So it's going to get a dictionary, and then how much time do we have that we are logged in? What I want to do is this data, I don't actually want to mutate it existingly. So I'm going to say like to encode. Let's take our data and let's copy the data that we get back from this. And if this is true, okay, we are going to then change the value of it, or I should say create a value for it. So if we do have a time limit we get back, I'm going to create a variable called expire. And this is just going to be equal to date time. I'm going to get the current time, which is UTC now. And we are going to add how much time we actually gave it, which is, in our case, 30 minutes. That's pretty standard. Else, we did not get back a time. So it's probably none, which means as a safety net, I'm just going to create one. And I'm just going to say here date time dot UTC now plus time delta. And inside here, I can give it the number of minutes. So if they don't have it, we'll just say, okay, you're valid for 15 minutes. Let's take our to encode data, and we are going to update that data. Now, this is a dictionary, right? I'm using update on my dictionary. So update, what does it take? It's going to take the key that we want to update and pretty much the value. So I'm going to create here a key for expire, and I'm going to give it expire. All right, this is the data that we got back, which is going to be once we generate a token, it is going to provide us an access token as the subject, and we're adding how long that token is valid for. So in this case, it'll be about 30 minutes. Let's create here encoded JSON web token is going to be equal to JSON web token. We can encode. What do we want to encode? The dictionary. Okay, so I'm gonna give it my dictionary. We are gonna give it our secret key, which yours should be secret, and then we're gonna give it the algorithm that we want, which I should probably say algorithm is equal to algorithm in this case. I'm just going to return our JSON web token. Okay, so now it's all been encoded. This is creating us that access token. The last real level here, and then we can start linking these to our endpoints, is we need a way to verify. Now, this is because, right, if you're logged into the API and you have your access token and you start going through and you start editing the endpoints, you start deleting a user. If I delete a user and I am the user I delete, that's a problem, right? Because that's going to lock me out of the account. So I shouldn't be able to delete myself if I'm the one logged in. And I want to make sure that the token is still valid, that we can do stuff with it, right? So right here inside verify token, this will take our token, which is a string, and this is going to output our token data, which is a class that we made for this. Okay, that was one of those Pydantic models we made. I'm going to try to create a payload output to verify. I'm going to say JSON web token. I want to decode. Okay, what do we want to decode? My token. We need to give it the secret key, and we're going to give it the algorithms it used. Algorithms as a list in this case. And this payload is going to be linked to our email of who we're logged in as. So I'm going to say payload. I want to get the subject back. So I'm going to say subject. This should contain the JSON web token. If email is none, well, what does that mean? There's nowhere to really link it. So I should probably raise, we imported a class called HTTP exception. I should probably raise one. I'm going to say status code is equal to a 404, or better yet, I think I'm going to say your status HTTP 401. Geez, I hope this is going to be the right one. Authorized. Okay, so it's going to throw us that error if we're not really logged in. Okay, I'm going to give it some detail of what we can see. So like could not verify credentials. That looks right. And then for OAuth, it's going to take some headers. This is just very standard. So I'm going to say www. Not dot, what am I saying? Authenticate. And we want to authenticate the bearer, which is really going to be the holder of the token. The token itself is what we're verifying. Otherwise, we are just going to return the token data. Where is my class? Be smart. There we go. And I'm going to say email is equal to email. Okay, so we've tried to do something. This is good. If we get an error, what kind of error? Well, it's going to be an error because we can't get the token itself. So I'm going to say accept JWT here we go. Probably just the error one. And we're going to raise again HTTP exception. And I'm just going to drop all the same data inside of it. Save. Okay. So verify token is done. We're ready to go. We're going to actually go down here now. Status. Did I not import? Oh, FastAPI. That's why it didn't give me any recommendations. Status. That needs imported from FastAPI. Okay. So going down here now, this is grand. Before my roots, we establish a database. I put here something for our auth dependencies. Here we want to do two things. I want to get current user. That is going to be one thing. And then I want to get current active user. Okay, so these two should roughly be linked together. Now, in order to get the current user, it's going to take our token, which is a string. Now, this whole function, it depends on this. So depends is something that we can import from FastAPI, and I'm basically saying that this piece of code, it depends on having a token if we want to execute this. And here we are going to give it our OAuth2 schematics. And then it also depends on the database. Okay, so our database is a session. This is going to depend on the function getDB returning stuff to us. Okay, so if I have a database, I have a token, I should be able to get back the current user. Okay, we're going to create a variable called token data is equal to verify token. Inside here, we are going to give it our token. I spelled depends. There we go. So this should be able to verify our token for us. And I'm going to make a query, okay, to my database. What we can say here is DB, I want to make a query. Now this is SQLAlchemy. What model are we querying from? User. Okay, so I want to fetch a user coming from our user model we made. And with this user, I'm going to apply a filter to it. I'm going to say anywhere that the user.email is equal to the token data. Where you at? Nope, not going to do it. Okay. Token data email. And we want to get the first one it gives us back. If user is none, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to copy the exception we have. Copy, copy, copy. Could not verify credentials. I'm going to say user does not exist. Does not exist. Spelled exist wrong. It's fine. Okay, so if we don't have a user, that's a problem. But really, we get token data. We verify that it matches with the linked email that we're logged in with. If this is the case, I'm going to return the user back. That's a success. Okay? So here we can have the current user. Now, a user who's logged in is also active, right? And so if we give them a current user, this is going to be linked to our user class. And what do you think this depends on? This depends on the first function working, get current user, right? If I want to get the current active user, the first one has to pass as a success, which means we have a token, the token is linked to a user. If that is true, then this function can run. All we can say here is if not, current user dot is active. We're going to access that property. I'm going to raise, can I just paste here? Yeah, I'm just going to raise an error. We don't need the headers, not a big deal. For our status code, we're just going to go with a 404 error. That's probably fine. And here, could not verify credentials. We will change to inactive user. I'm going to return the current user back. Cool. Donezo. Okay, oh, those were our auth endpoints. So let me just go up auth dependencies, not our auth endpoints, excuse me. That's what we need here. Okay, so we're pretty much about ready to start testing this. If I go back here, I refresh, still running, right? Okay, I don't have any issues yet, but everything is still unlocked. So we need these authentication endpoints. Really, we need to register the user and we need to log them in to give them an access token. So I'm going to create a new endpoint. I'm going to say app, we want to post, and the endpoint is going to be register. Okay, this is going to be what we call here in FastAPI a response model. And we're going to use the user response class that we made. Remember, this is to prevent us from being able to see the password. Once a user has an account, we use this model to then edit or to view things. Don't need that there. Okay, so let's create one. Let's say register our user. This is going to take our user, which is the first Pydantic class of user, create, and then it's going to take a database session. The session depends, once again, on the function getDB working. If we don't have a database, we can't do this. If the database query, we're going to make a query again to the user, and we're going to user.email is equal to user.email.first. So this basically means if we already have a user, okay, I'm going to raise an error because that should not be allowed. Okay, status code, user already created. We can't do that, okay? If we don't, we want to now create a user. So I'm going to say hashed password is going to be equal to get password hash. There is my password hash, okay? And we're going to say user.password. We're going to access that property in the user class. We are going to say db user. Let's just create a user object. And inside here, we're going to say name is equal to user.name. We're going to say email is equal to user.email. We are going to say role is equal to user.role. And we're going to say hashed password is equal to hashed password. I've created a new object. Anytime we make changes, I'm going to say db. I want to commit. Before we commit, we're going to add the database user. Okay, we're adding to the database, then we commit. Anytime you make a change, we always commit. We want the database to then refresh to display the new DB user, and we can return the database user to us. Finally, we have the ability to log in for access. This is a long function name. Login for an access token. This is a different endpoint. So I need to create a token endpoint here. We're going to say post token. This is going to be equal to a response model, and we made the model token. So it's going to be given that. App post response model is going to be our token. Let's create a variable to collect the data. So form data, this is going to be equal to, we imported something called show me, there we go, request form, and it's going to depend on this. And then our database is going to need a session, and this also depends on the database working. Okay, so now that we are logging in for this access token, I'm going to verify the user. I'm going to say user is equal to db query user. We want to make a filter, and we want to filter where user email form data dot username, and we want to get the first one we get back. If there is no user, or verify password. If this comes back as false, the password's not verified. We're going to say form data password. That is the password we're giving it. And then we're going to say user.hash password. We are just going to raise an exception. So, or not. Raise the exception again. And we're just going to say wrong info. Done. If not user.isActive means they're not active, let's also raise an exception. Inactive user is probably fine. And then lastly, we can now create that access token. So access token expires. We're just going to use the time delta that we gave it. And I'm going to say, ooh, what did we call that? Token expires. And I'm just going to say minutes is equal to token expires. Okay, so that should return us 30 minutes if we have it. And then we're going to say access token is equal to creates access token. That is our function. And we're going to say data is equal to a dictionary. It's going to give us back a subject with a user.email as well as expires delta, where we are going to say that is equal to access token expires. Done. At this point, I'm just going to return. We are going to say here access token, and we can return the access token, and then we can say token type, and this is just going to be equal to bearer. Finally, at this point, we're now really just editing these endpoints. Okay, I suppose the first one we can do here, I'll make a real quick one because now we're going to have a profile if we're logged in, right? So I'm going to say get, let's say profile. Okay, this is going to take a response model and we are going to say user response. And really, let's just say get profile. Current user is user. This is going to depend on get current, and we can just return current user. Great. The last one here that we will do is app.get. We need to get back and we need to verify token. We're going to create one here called verify token endpoint. This is going to take the same thing. So current user, we're going to verify you. And inside here then, we are just going to return this data to us. Okay, so I'm just returning the data back. Wonderful. Okay, so all of these, we already had these endpoints in the first part of this project. Let me add one to delete. Okay, so we can get all the users back, but now this depends on the user being active, right? So I'm gonna take this and we're gonna start to use this now. So I'm going to drop that here because if I want to get all the users back, the user needs to be active. They need to be logged into their account, right? When we go down to get a user, again, we have a user ID in a database session, but here I'm going to drop in the user again needs to be active. In order to create a user, the user needs to be active. And here, I'm going to change this. This is what I used last time. Let's, who are we really adding to the database? Let me go through here and let's actually create an object and go through now and given the details a slightly different way. We have a database user, but we have a hashed password. This is going to be equal to get password hash. Load me up some. Nope. Okay. And we do need to give it our user.password. Inside here, I'm going to say name is equal to user.name. Email is equal to user.email. Role is equal to user.role. And then hashed password is equal to hash password. I think I called this function pwd. There, okay, linked. Everything else should be good, so I'm going to save that. Okay. Updating user the same way. I have user ID and creating a user depends on our database. This also is now going to depend on the current user being active. Down here, I'm raising an error. I was able to loop through. This is just allowing me to update the user. For a more readable format, we can actually change this. And I'm just going to go through here and I'm going to say db user dot name is going to be equal to user dot name. db user dot email is going to be equal to user dot email. db user role is equal to user dot role. And I suppose here user, I could name this like update user, and then we can make those changes. Cool. Going into our last one, I'm just going to copy current user because we're going to need it. Okay, we're going to drop in, you need to be active in order to delete. And I'm going to put a little safety net here. Okay, I'm going to say if user ID is equal to current user ID, we don't want to be able to delete. Okay, so I'm just going to raise an error. Like you cannot delete yourself. Okay. I think we're good here. DB, still have access to DB. Okay, let's save this. Let's refresh this. I might actually just close my terminal. Look at this. Okay, all of these are now restricted. Okay, so if I go here and I say get users, try it out, execute, not authenticated. We can't do anything with this. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up here. I'm going to register a user. Okay, so I'm going to try it out. I'm going to say Josh. I'm going to say test. I already did that one. Let's say 0 to knowing at gmail.com. Role, I'm going to say Python. Password, I'm going to say test123. Execute. Boom. Okay, so it is working. Just delete the database. It refreshes. I am now active. It's true. Okay, so I've registered myself, but I don't have a token yet because here I need to log in if I want to access the other locked credentials. So I'm going to go in here to token, log in for access, try it out. Okay, what is my username? 0 to knowing at gmail.com. What is my password? Test123. I'm going to execute that. And you can see here is the response. So here is my access token, the token type. I can copy the access token. And I'm going to go up here now, and I'm going to go to authorize. My username, my password, and I'm going to paste that down here in client secret and click authorize. Look at that. I am now authorized. I can now go through, and I'm going to stay logged in. I can just click X here. All of these now I have access to. Okay, so get profile. If I want to try this out, execute. This is me. It's my profile because I'm logged in. I can view this, right? If I want to create a user, I'm going to go down here. Let's try and create a user. Let's say Bob. Nope. Let's say code with Josh since we're here in the channel. Email test@gmail.com. Role is going to be subscribe, and password can say string. I'm going to execute. Okay, and I'm getting an internal server error because, right, I am trying to create a user in their password, but they don't have a hash. So I'm just going to try this again. Users, I mean, this is set up. Okay, let me check my class model. Password passed. Let me do this. Hash. I want everything to make sure that we're using the same one. So hash password, hash password, hash password. That's okay. This one. This should say password pass. Yeah, okay. Okay, since we're here, I made a change. inside create that I've made that update, let's just say pw123 email test@gmail.com. Boom, that was exactly my issue, okay, because I didn't keep the same variable names, right? So here we now have created a new user. If I go up here and I get, let's get all users, try it out, execute, boom, look at that, right? So you can see now I have created an authenticated API system. If I go here to authorize and I click log out, I'm logged out, right? So if I go now back and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to get all the users, I'm going to execute. No, you're not. You're not authorized. That is how we integrate JSON Web Tokens into FastAPI to create an authenticated REST API with our token endpoints.
And there you guys have it. In today's video, I showcased how to build out an authenticated API with FastAPI, where you learned how to create an authentication form with OAuth, and we generated tokens using JSON Web Tokens. Pretty cool, guys. If you got value in today's video, hit the like button and subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you get notified for new videos. Thank you guys for being here. I have a lot of fun creating content, and I know you guys get value from this. Remember, the first link in the description, that is my Python masterclass built on 8 years of teaching experience where I take you guys from A to Z in Python. And right now I'm giving you guys 20% off your first month. Head on down to the first link in the description and check that out. All the other links down there are dedicated to you guys and helping you grow in Python. Everything from my weekly Python newsletter, our Discord community, and all my Python ebooks. So there's something for you. Head on down, check it out, and I will see you guys in there. Well, guys, that's all for this week's episode of Code with Josh. I'll see you next time, Python crew. Until then.